Good morning everybody, this is Lara with your daily update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. Weekly chart for Bitcoin. Now we have the last completed weekly candlestick done. Let's have a look and see if it has pushed from volume. First up, let's expect support at 35,000. It did have a little bit of a push from volume compared to the previous week, but overall from a couple of weeks ago, volume is slightly declining, so there's just a little bit of weakness in this last completed upward week. However, there's very obviously an upward trend. After this bear market that lasted about a year, there's now a series of higher highs and a series of higher lows, and ADX is telling us, yes, there's an upward trend. If support is broken at 35,000 for a pullback, look out for support at 31,000, and I expect really strong support below that, about 29,000. But for now, assume the trend remains the same, upward, until proven otherwise. Look for resistance at 41,100. At this time frame, there was an upward trend, which is a long way from being extreme. RSI is overbought, but this usually happens early on in a bull run for Bitcoin. It can get extremely overbought and then exhibit multiple bearish divergence before a bullish run comes to an end due to the extreme volatility of this market. Money flow is neutral. The last signal given from on-balance volume was a bullish signal as it broke out of this range. It's continued on up for a few weeks, so that signal may now be resolved. We now wait for a new range for on-balance volume, and then we'll wait for a new signal. At the daily time frame, price is finding resistance at 37,700 with some sideways movement after this little mini parabolic growth that we saw up to the high on the 9th of November. This has got a nice curved look. This is what parabolic growth looks like. And here's an important point. You see this in bullish runs, but you do not see that in bear market rallies. And I've looked at all of the rallies within all of the bear markets for Bitcoin really carefully to try and see if I can see this curved parabolic growth, and you don't see it in bear market rallies. There is always a feature though of a bull market bullish run. Volume was pushing price higher. Now price is moving sideways for the last 3 sessions with very light and declining volume. The volume profile is bullish. Volume pushes price higher, declines when price moves lower. No new range and no new signal from on-balance volume. We'll wait for it to form another range like this and then give us another signal like this. ADX is very extreme. This is in danger territory. I would be expecting a pullback to come now at the daily time frame, a relatively short-term pullback to relieve these extreme conditions. There's still really only single bearish divergence, and we can put it across these peaks now. This peak and this peak are essentially at the same point, so I'm not going to note any divergence, even if there is technically a tiny touch of bearish divergence. It's so weak, I wouldn't want to give it any weight. But from this peak to this peak and corresponding points in price is closed higher, RSI is lower after reaching deeply overbought. So along with a very extreme ADX, I will be expecting a relatively short-term pullback. Could be sharp and deep, but relatively short term to relieve these extreme conditions and set up for the next bullish run. Likewise, between price and money flow, single bearish divergence. Range and volatility were increasing as price moved higher. Now price is moving sideways. Range and volatility are declining. For Ethereum and XRP, I'm going to step you through the Elliott Wave counts very quickly. I did go over in-depth monthly charts last week though. The big picture with all of the data available for Ethereum, I see a 5-wave step forward pattern here, 3 steps back. Now the next 5 steps forward is extending. You cannot label the cycle 3 and 4 because 4 may not move into wave 1 price territory. That leads us to a very extreme bullish Elliott Wave count. I have cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3 extending with primary 1, primary 2. So now in the early stages of primary 3 of cycle 3. This low here is this point here on the weekly chart within primary 3, intermediate 1 and 2. Within intermediate 3, minor 1 and 2. So now we have a third wave at minor, intermediate, primary and cycle degree. A third wave at 4 large degrees is extremely bullish for Ethereum. As soon as we see a new high be above the end of 1, we will have further confidence that 3 is underway. It will have then met one of those core Elliott Wave rules. Within 3, no second wave correction may move beyond its start below 1521.78. This low here is this low here. Now I'm looking for the end of minute wave 1 within minor 3, and then there'll be another second wave correction. This one to be more brief than the previous second wave corrections, but it still could be quite deep. So within minute 1, I've got minuet 1, 2, 3, 4, and an extending 5th wave with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to use one of the Elliott Wave rules to have confidence for me to tell me when minute wave 1 is over. Sub-minuet 4 may not move into sub-minuet wave 1 price territory. So if I see a new low below 1913.61, that would tell me that this can't be a fourth wave, which means that I'd then label minute wave 1 over here, and would be expecting the fourth wave was brief and shallow in here. And that actually often happens for cryptocurrencies. Their fourth waves are often more brief and shallow than their counterpart second waves due to the strong upward pull of the fifth wave, because they have a tendency for fifth waves to be the strongest portion in terms of volatility and momentum. So that's my price point I'm looking for to tell me finally that minute 1 is over and minute 2 is underway. When I have that, then I'll draw a Fibonacci retracement along the length of minute 1. I'll apply a logarithmic function to it, and I'll expect minute 2 to reach the log function of the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio. But first, my first target will be the log function of the 0.382. Ethereum's still finding support so far over the weekend at 2020, resistance overhead at 2,400. If it breaks below 2020, look out for next stronger resistance at 1880, below that at 1800, and below that really strong at 1716. Volume is pushing price higher. Now price moves lower and sideways, volume is declining. The volume profile is very obviously bullish, and a really nice steady increase in volume up to the last short-term high for Ethereum. RSI has reached overbought, fairly deeply overbought, but there's no bearish divergence. Money flow didn't reach overbought, there is a little bearish divergence. ADX is now fairly extreme, it's nearing danger territory for Ethereum, so I'd be looking for a deeper, sharper pullback to come sooner rather than later. Not necessarily here yet, and there's no bearish reversal pattern, so assume the trend remains the same, upward, until proven otherwise. A pullback will come, but let's wait for my Elliott Wave invalidation point to be breached, or a really strong bearish reversal pattern before we expect the pullback has arrived. Let's step through the Elliott Wave count real quick also for XRP. Again, cycle wave 1, cycle 2. Cycle 1 subdivides beautifully as a 5-wave impulse. We've got 1 just off to the left of the chart, 2, 3, triangle for 4, and 5. There's really nice alternation between 4 and 2, and great proportion. If you see any Elliott Wave analysis that starts with ignoring these early movements for XRP back in 2016, ignore it. You have to consider all of the price movement for these markets, including, and the same goes for Ethereum and Bitcoin. If you look at any Elliott Wave counts and they're ignoring the initial data series, it's not going to be a reliable Elliott Wave count. You have to use all the data. That's really, really important. And if anyone tells you the reason why they're not doing that is, oh, there's such light volume early on in that series, exactly what number are they having a cutoff and why? What research is that based on, where they say below a certain volume level you can't use that price data, it's not good enough for Elliott Wave? The answer will be they don't have a specific number, they're eyeballing it on the chart. That leads to subjectivity. You need to use all the data for these wave counts. Okay, cycle 1, cycle 2 within cycle 3, primary 1, primary 2, now primary 3 within cycle 3, 2/3 waves at very large degrees. My target is really conservative. For Ethereum, if primary 3 reaches a Fibonacci ratio 4.236, the length of 1, it would end at $8.10. I'm considering it could take a Fibonacci 3 years in duration. If that's the case, June 2025 could be where it ends. I'm using this ratio because primary 3 was pretty close to 4.236, the length of primary wave 1 within cycle 1. So this is a realistic idea. This low here is this low here within primary 3, intermediate 1 and 2. Now looking for minor 1 and 2. Let's take a look at the daily chart. This low here, this low here. Now minor 1 for XRP may be over. Now I'm looking for a deeper, sharper pullback to end in the next couple of weeks or so for minor wave 2. I don't expect it's going to be as long lasting as intermediate 2. I think it's going to be over within another 1 to 4 weeks, 4 weeks at the most. I think it's going to be sharp and relatively quick because of the position in the wave count. This is a second wave within a third wave at several large degrees. Technicals for XRP, we do have a bearish reversal pattern. That's one reason why I'm expecting the pullback has arrived. A little bit of sideways movement for the last few days. For XRP, it looks like a little pennant pattern could be forming. The pennant flagpole is from this high to this low. If I take that distance and deduct it by the potential breakout point, I get a target at 0.5435, and there is really strong support in that area. Pennants and flags are reliable continuation patterns. They work much more often than they fail, but they do not work all the time. So I'll be open to adjusting the resistance and support lines, resistance and support, and allowing the little pennant to, it could turn into a flag, and it could take up a little bit longer. The best performing flags and pennants are complete within 15 sessions, 15 days. So they are short-term continuation patterns. The angle of entry is down, so the angle of exit should be down. So if price can break below support at 62 cents, I'll look for the target from the pennant at 0.5435. Volume was pushing price higher for XRP. After that dark cloud cover, we've got strong volume pushing price lower. Another reason why I expect a sharper, deeper pullback has arrived for XRP. ADX is now declining at this time frame, telling us there's no longer a trend after the trend reached very extreme. RSI reached deeply overbought but did not exhibit bearish divergence. That's okay. That dark cloud cover, bearish reversal pattern, I'm going to give that a lot of weight, even though there's no bearish divergence here, because RSI did reach really deeply overbought. Money flow reached reasonably overbought as well. Along with the pennant pattern, I'm going to look here at the support line from on balance volume. A break below this purple support line would be a bearish signal. I'd expect then price to continue on down to next identified support. And that's it from me today with a quick update for you. I might, if I have time, I'm going to have a look at Solana with you maybe later today, because a few people have asked about it. I've got a little investment in it, and it is having a pretty good bullish run, so that hopefully that's coming up later today or tomorrow.